Dear viewers, in this lecture, I would discuss a case study related to the planning of tourism facilities in a region. The study area is in the country of Laos. It is a landlocked country surrounded by Cambodia to the south, Thailand to the west, Vietnam to the east, and China and Myanmar in the north and northwest respectively. It lies between 20 degrees 34 north to 26 degrees 38 north latitude and between 88 degrees 1 minute east and 92 degrees 41 minutes east longitude. 70% of its total area, that is 2.36 million square kilometers, comprise of mountains and plateau area. The mighty Mekong River, one of the longest rivers in the world, flows along the borders with Thailand. The river flows through nearly 1900 kilometers of the Lao territory and has been a lifeline of the country in terms of fish supplies, transportation routes and agriculture. Several hydroelectric facilities situated on the tributaries of Mekong generate electricity for export to Thailand. The population of the country is estimated to be nearly 5.7 million in the year 2005-2006 and is growing at an annual rate of 2.4%. The average population density is 21% per square kilometers, giving Laos the lowest population density in Asia. The highest population density in Laos is in Vientiane capital with 149% staying per square kilometers. Overall, it is found that 85% of the total population is rural dwellers. The religion of the country is basically Theravada or Hinayan Buddhist, who comprise of 60% of the population. Buddhism is an inherent feature of daily life and casts a strong influence on the Lao society. It has played a vital role in the cultural development of Lao People's Democratic Republic and has greatly influenced thoughts and behavior of a large percentage of the population. The temple are important places of private worship and also provide many opportunities for social gatherings. The many temples throughout the country provide the visitors with moments of great tranquility and beauty. With this background, I now focus my attention to one of the major provinces in Laos, that is Luang Prabang. This province has an importance in Lao history and presently the capital city, also named Luang Prabang, is a World Heritage Center. So, let us have a look at the general details of Luang Prabang before we start with the other aspect related to the study. Luang Prabang, or the meaning is Royal Buddha Image, is a city located in the north central Laos, where the river Nam Khan meets the Mekong River about 425 kilometers north of Vientiane capital city. The current population of the city is about 103,000 people. The city was formerly the capital of a kingdom of the same name. Until the communist takeover in 1975, it was the royal capital and seat of government of the Kingdom of Laos. The city is also notable as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. The main parts of the city consists of 4 main roads located on a peninsula between the Namkham and Mekong rivers. The city is well known for its numerous temples and monasteries. One of the major landmarks of the city is a large steep hill on which sits Wat Chom Sai. The adjacent figure shows the location of Wat Chom Sai over the hill, and it is a very prominent landmark which identifies Lao Prabang city from its surrounding. Lao Prabang has both natural and historical sites. Among the natural tourism sites, there are the Kwangsi Falls and the Paku Caves. So, let us have a look at the characteristics or the beauty of the Kwangsi Falls, which is a beautiful spot and is situated 32 kilometers south of Lao Prabang city. These waterfalls are definitely a favorite place for the tourist to visit in Lao Prabang. It has a wide, many-tiered waterfall flowing over limestone formations into a series of fresh, cool turquoise pools and surrounded by thick banks of green and colorful vegetations on either side. The photograph on the long side shows a view of the Kwangsi Falls, and one can see the beauty of the nature in its pristine surroundings. There are several beautiful swimming holes around with the most amazing green colored water. The trails around the falls are quite well maintained, so you can climb up to the highest point and view the stream that feeds to the falls. The next slide or this slide shows one of the very beautiful pools which is present there, and one can see the nature in its beauty with the blue water available for the tourist to take swimming and other water related activities. Similarly, this particular slide also shows how the water has been impounded by nature to create pools, so that the flow of the water is reduced drastically for the tourist to enjoy various water related activities. The next historical place in Lao Prabang province is the Paku Caves. It is one of the main attractions in Lao Prabang that attracts a lot of visitors there daily. It is located north of the city, about 25 kilometers by boat along Mekong River at the mouth of Namu River. Below you can see a overall view of the Paku Caves, and one can also see at the bottom along the river side the launch boats which bring the tourists daily to the Paku Caves, so that they can visit this particular holy site which is dedicated to Lord Buddha. The caves are in two levels, the lower level and the upper level. There are hundreds of mostly wooden Buddha figures inside the caves with different shapes and sizes. In the lower level, there are about 2,500 Buddha images, and in the upper level there are about 1,500 Buddha images. In this slide, it provides a view of the Buddha images in the upper and lower level of the caves. Then the next important historical place is the Royal Palace Museum. The Royal Palace is recognized as one of the Laos finest museum history in Lao Prabang. This was the place where the king and his family hosted official functions and welcomed foreign visitors to the country. The picture below gives a glimpse of the Royal Palace Museum as it is presently. Another famous place in Lao Prabang city is the night market. This particular place is operational throughout the night. The activity starts from 7 o'clock in the evening and continues late into the early morning of the next day to about 5 o'clock, depending upon the weather conditions. In this particular market, one can have all types of handicrafts and articrafts of the Lao people and other artifacts which have been imported from the nearby countries such as China or Myanmar or Vietnam into this market. Well, this market is a prime attraction for all the tourists during the night time. Since the main religion of this particular country is Buddhism, the presence of Bodhi tree is considered to be a blessing. This is one, in this particular slide, one can see a Bodhi tree which is on the way to Wat Chomsai, which is located on top of the hill. And the significance of this particular Bodhi tree is that it has been donated by the Government of India during the celebrations to mark the 2050th centenary of Lao DPR. Having had a look at the general informations regarding the area, now we look at what are the objectives of this particular study. The PDR Lao is interested in developing the various parts of the country for tourism. So, the main objective of this particular study was to formulate tourism development plans using remote sensing and GIS. In GIS, before any planning activity can be carried, one of the very important tasks is the creation of a GIS database. So, we first create the GIS database for tourism zoning. Well, this database has to have all the necessary informations which will play a vital role, and thus it is important for the analyst to identify what are the main informations which should be incorporated into the GIS database. So, let us have a look at the input data which has been considered in creating the GIS database for tourism planning. First of all, the Lao Prabang administrative boundary maps have been taken, then the district headquarter maps, satellite images of the necessary region, the land use and the land cover map, road network map, water resources map, built up area map, contour and DEM, then national biodiversity conservation area maps. In Lao, there are vast areas which have lot of biodiversity, and the government of Lao PDR has identified these zones as national biodiversity conservation areas, or in short what they call it as NBCA. Apart from this, the other important tourism places maps have been taken as input into the GIS database. To create the database, one must realize that all these informations have to be digitized or should be available in digital form for analysis, and that they should conform to the necessary projection systems, so that each is tied up to its properly, or else there would be a displacement in the various maps which are being used as inputs. So, first of all let us have a look at the Lao Prabang province as a whole. Lao Prabang province is divided into 11 districts. First is Lao Prabang itself, then Paku, Nambak, Ngoi, Chompet, Nan, Zenghuan, Phonzai, Pakseng, Winkham and Phom Kwan. So, these are the 11 provinces which consist or are there within the Lao Prabang province. This particular map shows the locations of the district headquarters. This map is very important because it is observed that the habitation is primarily located around the district headquarters with very sparse populations along the interior regions. For tourist development plans to be effective, they have to be developed around these district headquarters, so that various tourism related infrastructure such as hotels and other requirements of the tourism can be met. Then we come to the land use map. Well, this defines how the land has been utilized, and in this case there are 7 major land use categories which have been identified. This land use map has been created from Landsat data sets using satellite based digital classification techniques to create the same. The accuracy of the land use map which was provided and was used for this particular study met the minimum criteria of 85%, and thus it was acceptable for us to be utilized for subsequent analysis. Another main information, which is the road network, this information will provide the connectivity from one place to another place. And one can see here that there are 4 major roads which are running across the province from north to south and east to west. Using these road networks, the tourists will be able to travel to various locations, and thus all the developmental activities need to be focused around these road networks, so that the tourist does not have to spend much time traveling, rather than he should be able to devote more time enjoying the tourist places. The next is the major river map. Lao country, as a matter of fact, has lot of water resources with many major rivers and small tributaries present. Well, this provides a very good opportunity for water related activities, which we call it as water tourism. So, this particular map helps us in identifying which could be the possible locations wherein water related tourism activity can be developed. Similarly, we have the reservoir maps, that is those locations where the water has been impounded, and these can be used again for creating water tourism related activities. This slide shows the combination of the river and the reservoir map, and this together will help us in formulating logistic tourism development plans. Similarly, the urban and the rural area map is also an important information, because this will identify which could be the zones where the developmental activities can be undertaken, because if there is no local population, then the subsistence of a particular activity or development plan will not be a success. The next information which is very critical, and that is the information regarding the elevation, or what we call it as the contour map. So, here we see the contour maps of the whole of Lao Prabang province, and one can see how closely the contours are placed amongst themselves, and this is primarily providing us how the slopes or how the elevations are varying. And from this, other derived informations such as slope or the digital elevation model of the area would be developed, based on which one would be able to identify where are the suitable locations which can be developed for tourism developmental activities. This slide provides a closer view of the closeness of the contours which are there, which shows that how rugged the area is, and in between there are narrow valleys, and these valleys could be the probable locations for many activities. However, for other type of activities such as mountaineering, this information is also good, because one would be able to identify the potential areas which could be used for mountaineering activities in this particular region. So, from this information, a digital elevation map has been created, and the different colors depict different elevation zones, that is how the elevation is varying, and this provides a very clear cut idea as to the ground profile existing in the province. From this, a derivative product, what we call it as the slope map, has been created, and one can see that by and large the slope has been categorized into 5 categories. One is less than 5%, and this is shown in magenta, and it is only in the northwestern portion of the province that we find that the slopes are gentle or having less than 5%, and thereafter the slopes are more or less between the range of 15 to 25%, and they are shown in green color. Higher slopes are shown in yellow and blue and red color. Thereby, it gives an idea to the analyst as to what could be the potential zones depending upon the activity to be proposed. Since this project is dedicated to tourism planning, it is important to know where are the existing tourist places, so that the developmental plans can be focused around these particular areas. So, this particular map shows the different types of tourist places which are already existing and probably could be the focal point for the development plans to be initiated. So, from this, the important tourist places have now been converted into point features and have been stored into the GIS databases. This particular slide shows the different type of tourist locations which are there and what type of activity is being carried out in these locations. By and large, if one really looks at these tourist locations, either they are caves or they are water related tourist locations, except for Lao Prabang city, which is a World Heritage town. Now, coming to the World Heritage town, it is also important to know where are the important heritage locations. So, this particular map provides the input regarding the World Heritage city, which is there with its various elements present. The next slide, as a matter of fact, shows the wetland one of the important heritage activities which is known as the wetland trails, and map on the left hand side shows the location or the route of the wetland trails from one point to the other point, and this is a trail where the tourist walk along the natural beautiful areas covered with forest and other natural features as they move from one location to another location. This trail is utilized to visit one of the temples close to the World Heritage City, that is Manoram. Based on all these inputs which have been collected using data sets coming from various sources and from the inputs which are available from the worldwide web resources and other literature, a worldwide heritage map also has been created so that no duplication of tourist development plans are undertaken. As I have said earlier, Laos has a vast biodiversity, and recognizing this particular fact, the government of Laos has identified various sites within the country which are known as biodiversity conservation areas or NBCA. This particular map shows the various locations of the biodiversity conservation areas. Lao Prabang also has 2 such biodiversity conservation areas in its administrative region. Having collected all these data sets, now we start with the analysis. The analysis is to be carried out in such a manner so that one can find out what are the influence regions around a particular information. For example, roads, water bodies or tourist centers. We would like to know what would be the impact of a particular information, and in order to study and analyze such informations, we would like to create buffer zones within the GIS environment. Well, buffer zones are nothing but it can be simply understood to be like influence zones around a particular region. So, in order to create the buffer zones for tourism, certain criteria had to be identified, and these criteria are that the tourism zones should not be less than 5 kilometers from major roads and should not be more than 10 kilometers from the major roads. It should not be more than 20 kilometers from the district headquarters, and also it should not be 20 kilometers away from the tourist centers. In order to identify potential tourism zones, this information is to be merged in such a manner that certain important resources can be taken into consideration, and this is done by the method of intersection, and the features which have been intersected are the reservoir map and the land use map. The reservoir map is one which helps us in identifying which are the potential zones which could be utilized for water related tourism activities, and the land use map provides us what is the present status of the land. The reason is that in Lao country, agriculture is considered to be a very important activity, and one of the constraints which was put forth was that no developmental activities will be carried out where there is already existing agriculture. And since this information is available to us in the land use map, this data has been taken into consideration for identifying potential zones. So, using these criteria, first of all, the buffer regions about the road and district headquarters have been generated. The blue strip that one can see here is the buffer zone from the road, which is less than 5 kilometers. The pink zone along the roads are the regions which are between 5 to 10 kilometers from the center of the road. So, this now identifies the region within which the developmental activities can take place. Similarly, The circles which can be seen, these are buffer zones about the district headquarters. The district headquarter buffer is to be of 20 kilometer from the center of the district headquarter, and thus one can see that these circles identify the zone which fall within 20 kilometers, and with the help of these information we will proceed ahead to take into consideration in identifying the potential zones. Similarly, we also create a buffer zone of 20 kilometers about the tourist places. That is, tourist places, if they are to be developed, they should be developed within 20 kilometers from their present locations, so that these have a significant impact on the developmental activities of the tourism. Since we were having different types of buffers of different shapes, it was necessary that these buffers be created in such a manner that they identify a single region and not multiple regions, as it was seen in the previous slides, wherein buffer zones were intersecting with each other. So, with the help of merge facility available within GIS, the different buffer zones which were available to us were merged together to create a buffer which now defines which are the tourist buffer places. And one can see now that there are three major buffer zones about which tourism can take place. One is in the northern portion, the other is in the eastern portion, where there are the NBCA areas which are there. At these places, the tourism would be encouraged, which would be eco-related, and thus this would be a eco-tourism center which would be there. And finally, at the southwestern region or portion of where we have the World Heritage Center, around that we have many tourist important places, and so this could be a sort of a cultural tourism activity, because it relates to the culture of the particular place. So, having had the buffer zones now created, now let us identify which are the district headquarters which will play an important role in the tourist development plans. And so, this particular slide shows that there are 6 districts within which tourism development plans will have to be initiated as per the criterions which have been evolved in order to identify zones which will qualify for the developmental activities. So, based on this, now one can see the zonal maps of different types of activities which are there. The blue area is the water sports zone, because this is the area wherein there are many streams which are flowing there and can be utilized for water related activities. So, all the tourists who are interested in water related activities would prefer to visit these places, and thus the developmental activities have to be initiated around this particular blue buffer zone. Similarly, the green areas are the ecotourism zones, that is, in these regions the tourist would probably walk along defined trails to visit the region, which would be full of its natural beauty, and thus they will be able to enjoy and learn about the culture of that particular place. The orange color buffer zone is the cultural tourism zone, that is, these are the places where there are lot of temples which are located, and as I have said earlier, in Lao, temples play a very important role, not only in the private life but also in the tourism activity. And so, this orange zone can be dedicated as a cultural tourism zone, so that once the tourist reaches Lao Prabang, they are able to focus their visit to the activity in which they are interested. Finally, the magenta buffer zone highlights the World Heritage Center. This is a place, as I have described earlier, is the main attraction in this particular region. So, keeping in mind the importance of the heritage which this particular place has, this can be developed as a World Heritage tourism area. Having had the look at the different types of maps, now for the administrator it is important to know what type of tourism has been proposed and what is the area and where they are located. So, ecotourism has been identified to have an area covered of 2240.42 square kilometers, and these would be in the districts of Veng Kham, Phon Sai, Lao Prabang and Zhuang Nuing. So, these 4 districts will focus its planning in terms of ecotourism, so that the tourists who are visiting, they are able to enjoy the natural beauty of the country. Water tourism areas have been identified to have a cover of 2490.12 square kilometers, and this activity would be located in the districts of Nambak and Nagoi. Similarly, the cultural tourism areas are having an area coverage of 3840.64 square kilometers, and the districts within which cultural tourism activities will have to be planned would be in the districts of Pakau, Champet and Lao Prabang. So, this provides a holistic view as to what type of tourism activity will be undertaken, what is the coverage area and where they are located. Now, having had a look at each of the tourism activities, now we look at the district wise tourist places and the activities which would be undertaken, because there can be many locations where the tourism development plans will have to be undertaken. So, first of all we look at the district of Nagoi, and this particular district will have the places Tham Kang, Pha Quang and Pha Tok. Cave related activities would be undertaken, whereas Muang Nuang and Guao will undertake the activities of trekking, fishing and swimming, while Non Kwa will undertake the activities of boating. So, the district authorities in this particular district will now focus on development plans which will cater to these type of tourism activity. Similarly, Nambak will have Pha Quang and Pha Thok places devoted to caves and Nuang Quang for boating activity. Paku, this particular district will have predominantly cave related tourism activities developed in the places of Paku, Tham Zang, Tham Phua Zai and the World Heritage Town, where there would be multiple activities. Similarly, Champet will have cave related activities at Tham Zing and Tham Phua Sai, and a portion of the World Heritage Town would also be there as multiple tourism activities. The district of Lao Prabang will by and large would be a World Heritage Center having multiple activities, and Zeng Quang will have, these are having waterfalls, that is Tatsai, Guangxi and Nam Ming. These are the 3 waterfalls, and thus there the activities related to waterfalls will have to be initiated. Having had a look at the locations, now it is important to see that what are the distances that each of the tourism facilities will have. So, if we look at water tourism, all activities up to 5 kilometers from the district headquarters or from the roads will be Nong Kwai and Phuang Quang and Pho Toc, between 5 to 10 Tham Kang, and 10 to 15 Muang Nuwa Gai and Guao, which would be there. Under cultural tourism, up to 5 kilometers Paku and Luang Prabang, and between 5 to 10 kilometers Thang Phok Sai and Tham Giang would be located. In terms for ecotourism, up to 5 kilometers from the road, Nam Ming and Tak Se, and between 5 to 10 Quang Si and the NBCA areas of Lao Prabang are located. So, this gives an idea as to the distance that the tourist will have to travel. With this, we can now appreciate that how the use of remote sensing and GIS can be utilized in tourism development plans. It further has highlighted the use of other information into the analysis procedure to provide a holistic solution. In my next lecture, I would highlight the use of remote sensing and GIS for planning of commercial and industrial areas. Thank you.